Yo, what is going on? It is the Crazy Rider right here, right now, back with Chapter 11 of my Invader Zim fanfiction. Okay, I know that nobody's watching these videos, and nobody's gonna care that I wasn't uploading for a couple weeks. Even if these videos suddenly somehow blow up in like a year, it won't really matter by then. But I still want to explain why it took longer than usual for me to upload this chapter. I had the bat soup. Okay, not really, but I did have the virus. It wasn't serious. I didn't go to the hospital or anything. I had like 3 symptoms total. Unfortunately, one of those symptoms was a sore throat, and that sore throat lasted for like 3 weeks, which meant I couldn't record, which meant I couldn't upload. Even now, when I'm recording this, my voice isn't at 100%, but it's good enough that I can talk again without hurting my voice, so I can record again, yay! Also, after this video goes up, I'm gonna take another few weeks off to catch up on some of my recordings, so you probably won't see me again until at least November. Anyway, I don't want to make this intro any longer than it already is, so let's get right into the chapter. Everybody sit back, relax, and enjoy it all right here, right now. Chapter 11. Snack Time. Dib and I are absolutely pissed. Yes, pissed at Zim. I haven't gone to his house or sat with him at lunch all week. Dib gives him the same crap that he always does, and Zim returns his attitude. We were all in class, and Miss Bitters brought out a mysterious black package. The package sat in the back of the room where everyone's attention was directed. There was a timer on the package that was counting down. At exactly 0 seconds, Miss Bitters pushed a big red button on the package. The package started smoking and the main components blasted away. The smoke cleared to reveal a little cage with a hamster in it. The children all saw the hamster and collectively awed before gathering around the back table. I too rushed to take a peek at the rodent, but not for the same reason as the other kids. I put my front paws on the table and looked down into the cage with my tongue hanging out. "You look like a tasty snack," I said down to it with hunger. Miss Bitters hit me in the head with a rolled-up magazine. "No, Liz, this hamster is not for food. By order of the school board's program to reduce misery among school children, this class is issued one classroom pet. Hamster class. Name, Pee-Pee." Knowing that I wouldn't be able to resist the urge to take a bite out of Pee-Pee, I backed away from the cage and stayed on 4s next to Dib. While other children were admiring the cuteness of the animal, Zim took one look at the creature and screamed. He tried to run away, but Dib and I stood in his way. Do I even have to say anything at this point? Dib asked nobody in particular. "If you are referring to my reaction to that hare monster," Zim told us bitterly, "I can assure you that like the other normal children, I find it, cute." Dib finished. "The word is cute. Humans think hamsters are cute." "Wolves think critters like that make yummy treat," I said with a grin as I eyed what would be food to my real family. Liz here is a bit of an exception to everything that humans are and do. Dib pet the top of my head the way I always liked. "Yes," Zim said while deep in thought. "This cuteness has a curious effect on human beings." Zim turned towards us. "Makes them weak." Zim went deeper into thought and then grinned. I had forgotten how glad it made me to see Zim smile like that. I wanted to see more of it. "Take a good look, children, except Liz or she'll eat it," Miss Bitters told us. "It will prepare you for your adult lives in our nightmarish corporate system." Zim went back over and stared at the hamster for a bit. Dib stared at Zim with suspicion, and I stared at Zim with a longing to make him happy again. The next day Miss Bitters was training us to stand on our heads for some reason. I can do that too. See? Isn't that fun? Anyway, Dib put his hand up. Miss Bitters, have you noticed anything strange about the hamster? We all looked back at the pet. He's 3 times his size and he has that hideous throbbing alien device on his back. Yes, he's getting plenty juicy meat on those bones, right? I started salivating again and licked my lips. I heard Zim whisper to himself in front of me, "The Earth Boy is trying to interfere. Now is the time to use that pee-pee creature's cuteness to divert attention." There was a sudden crash from the back of the room. Everyone looked to see the hamster was gone and replaced with a giant hole where he just was. There was a silence, and then many children and their desks started to collapse. There was another crash beneath the window by Dib. Zim rose from his seat. This is a little ahead of schedule. Zim ducked through the hole in the wall, and I followed with Dib not far behind me. We saw Pee-pee about the size of a pup, running and eating the fence. After he ate, he grew to about the size of Zim. My tongue hung out of my mouth, with drool dripping. He big enough to feed a whole pack now! I could only see the creature out as food. The 3 of us went through the hole in the fence and watched Pee-pee wander down the street towards some buildings. Yes, my creation! Grow! Grow! And grow the animal did as he ate. Now, Pee-pee, come to your master! Zim tried to command it. I was sort of liking this idea of his, because I could easily protect Dib from this one. My only problem was I wished he'd used a giant wolf instead of a hamster. I could have been able to communicate with the wolf and tell it to specifically avoid Zim, Dib, me, maybe Gaz and Professor Membrane. Pee-pee didn't come to Zim when called, and Zim grew impatient. Pee-pee was now bigger than most of the buildings in the area. Dib and I were now at Zim's side. Anything you'd like to confess? Dib asked and pointed at the monstrous rodent. No, Zim told him. Don't be silly. I think this amazing idea, Zim, I told Zim. Zim and Dib both looked at me with surprise. You do? Asked Zim. Of course you do. It is brilliant, isn't it? I nodded. I just wish you used wolf instead. Oh no, Dib groaned. She's going back to his side. It didn't take long for Ultra Pee-pee to be all over the news. After using a building for a toothpick and taking down some jets, Zim tried again to make the creature obey him. Come here! You must obey me! I am your lord and hamster master! Zim moved to the center of the panicking crowd and tried to tell them to fear him instead of Pee-pee. Of course it didn't work. Well, Zim put his hands on his hips, he does seem to be destroying the humans, and that is good. Zim looked up at the towering hamster. Good job, Pee-pee. I'll just wait until you're all done here. Carry on! Dib had run off to warn the military or something, while Zim and I went back to the base to wait for Pee-pee to finish. Zim had quickly welcomed my companionship back that day, and I was grateful for that. The whole moose thing was behind us, and I was ready to take on the world with him once again. Zim and Gur were watching TV inside while I was outside, watching the destruction of this horrid city. I didn't feel as worried for Dib this time. I knew he would be smart and avoid crossing the hamster's path directly. Pee-pee was drawing closer to the base. There was a thunderous footstep that caused Zim to come outside to investigate. He looked up to see Pee-pee coming closer to the house. I saw that Zim was out of his disguise. Zim, what are you doing out without disguise? I ran over and tried to push him inside. Someone see you! Zim tried once again to make Pee-pee obey him, but with no results. He ran back inside and was soon in his cruiser to meet Pee-pee at eye level. Zim started swarming and shooting at Pee-pee, but it only made the overgrown snack angrier. Never thought I'd see that. I heard Dib's voice just outside the property. I went to Dib's side. Dib, you try and stop hamster! Pee-pee breathed fire at Zim, and his ship which caused Zim to lose control. He crashed through many buildings and landed several blocks away. Dib and I wasted no time running to the site where we found the unconscious alien. Zim! I was at his side immediately, trying to lick and nudge him awake. Dib was behind me, talking to himself again. Zim soon sat up and looked around. I gave him a quick hug when I realized he was okay, and he brought out his communicator to contact Gur. Within seconds, Gur had flown in and Zim hopped on his little green back to take off. Dib finally noticed when I was back at his side. Wait, Zim! He shouted after Zim. Promise me you're on our side this time. Zim turned Gur around and hovered in front of us. I know not of sides, Earth stink. But just this once I agree with you. The hamster must be stopped. I smiled up at Zim at this news. No! Dib screamed. Oh, wait. Yeah. Go on, then. I knew he'd make right decision, I said in an almost whisper as Zim flew off. Dib looked down at me. What are we supposed to do now? I can't just sit here and do nothing. I looked back up at Dib. Make sure he can do what he need do. Without saying a word, Dib and I both knew immediately what to do, and we headed for the city's fairgrounds where we found the military ready to fend off Ultra Peepee. We both ran in front of the tanks. Don't attack! Dib shouted and I barked for their attention. The alien is trying to get rid of the hamster. Don't interrupt his plan. Boy's crazy, one of the soldiers pointed. Put him in one of those crazy buckets. Other soldiers came over and tackled Dib, and I jumped out of the way. No, you must listen, you stupid humans! Put her in a bucket too! And the soldiers started making their way over to me. But when they reached for me, I bit down on the nearest man's arm and I ran off. I ran until I found myself at the feet of Ultra Peepee. I looked up at the monstrous neck, and he looked down at me. No! I heard both Dib and Zim's voices scream as I stood frozen in horror. The rodent was the size of a mountain. No creature of Earth has ever been so large. Definitely no prey animal like this. At any other point in history, I, the wolf, would be the predator to him, the prey. This was different, though. This time, I was the prey, and Peepee was the predator. I saw the giant hamster paw reaching down for me. I was still frozen. Then the tanks started to fire on Peepee, and he was distracted. It was also enough to break me out of my spell, and I ran under his large feet. A rocket thing that Zim had planted launched, but missed Peepee. I was still at the hamster's feet, with him being distracted by the shots of the tanks. I jumped onto his non-mechanical foot as it stomped around. As I expected, he took no notice of me on his foot when he was being shot at. Like the pack taught me, the prey will focus on the more obvious threat. This put you back in your place of prey, Peepee, I cried before chomping down on one of his mighty toes. I held my bite as it grew deeper despite Peepee's screeching. Liz! I heard Zim's voice screaming down at me from above. Release your hold on the Peepee! I suddenly felt Peepee and I being lifted off the ground, and I tore away from his foot. I dropped almost 20 feet to the ground with a chunk of bloody, hairy hamster flesh in my mouth. I looked up at the sky to see Peepee flying away. I shook off the pain of the high drop and slowly rose to 4 paws, blood dripping from my mouth. I looked up to see Dib hopping over in his bucket and Zim approaching while adjusting his wig. Both had immense worry on their faces as they looked down at me. Are you okay, Liz? Dib asked quickly. There was a strong pain in one of my back legs. If I was a creature that walked on 2 legs all the time, this injury might make it difficult for me to move. However, being on all 4s has its advantages. I slowly hobbled over to my 2 friends. Once I was right in front of them both, I lowered my head and opened my mouth. The chunk of giant hamster foot, that was the same size as Peepee had been originally, fell out of my mouth and onto the pavement. Directly between Zim and Dib it landed. Zim and Dib exchanged confused glances as I raised my head to my usual level and looked up at the two. "Rodents, always my prey," I whispered and looked directly into Zim's eyes. "Next time, use giant wolf." With that, I collapsed to the ground. Whew! Yeah, another chapter done. I will see you little darlings in a few weeks for chapter 12. Before I go, remember, keep your crazy